Tuttle here for Ferguson Roof Systems. For 43 years, Ferguson Roof Systems has been protecting Oklahoma's homes and businesses with quality roofing services. Their goal was to be the most honest and dependable roofing company in the state, all while providing free services such as lifetime labor warranty and annual inspections. Well, mission accomplished with thousands of client testimonials, an A+ Better Business Bureau rating, and a 5-star rating on Google. Look, the weather gives you enough to worry about, so why worry about who to trust with your roof? Call Ferguson Roof Systems today or find out more at fergusonroofsystems.com.
Hey everyone, Meteorologist Tuttle here with you. It is time to talk about the weather for our Tuesday. I kind of want to focus on the severe weather aspect coming back across the state. And typically, we do have a little bit of a mini severe weather season in the fall, and looks like this time around will be no different. And the situation's actually pretty conducive to what normally happens around here. So in the spring, in other words, kind of the setup that we have with like dry line setup, warm front, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to show you the placement on that, the most likely areas of where that's going to be a problem. So let me do this here. I got to start this back on my phone because for some reason Facebook didn't do what it should have done. That way I can see your comments and stuff. Okay, there we are. Yeah, whatever reason, my whole comment was blank. So anyway, all right. So now I can see you guys are in the house. I was worried there for a minute. I was just talking to myself. Diana's already jump started the whole night with 100 stars. Thank you, Diana. Lisa, hot on the trail. You two ladies are awesome. So they just sent me some stars. They're playing the Facebook Stars game. You can do so as well. It's in the comment section at the bottom. Carmen's checking in for Lindsay. You guys have been checking in from all over the place, from Oklahoma and surrounding areas. I mean, it's awesome. Jennifer's in the house. She picked 265 stars to be exact. That's awesome. So listen, before I get to the weather real quick, last little deal of business. See what this is? See what this is? I'm pumped because I finally got it in the mail today. So this is my new AT's Weather Zip Hoodie. So it is, there's the back of it. So it's nice and thick and soft. It's got this really awesome soft material like that, just that, you just want to do this with it all day. So this is, I'm excited. This is pumped. So I'll put the link where you can get one in the comment section here. And we're at the end, toward the end of this weather part of the broadcast. Sam's in the house with 50 stars. Thank you, brother. He is a supporter +1. All right, so let me do that here real quick. And we're going to talk about the tornado threat. If you have some friends and family and they don't know anything about it, message them real quick or hit the share button and let them know what's coming. All right, so I'm going to put the link here on all the deals. If you have some friends and family. Whoa. Let's mute that nonsense. We're going to get double feedback. There we go. All right. Guys on YouTube are joining in. So, Craig, yes, it is. You're going to love it. So, I just posted the link there. Okay, so that business is done. Now, let's talk about the other form of business, what you're really here for. All right, so this is the look at the severe weather threat coming up for tomorrow. This will start in the early, I'd say mid-afternoon, about 3 o'clock-ish out here in western Oklahoma. Then that extends eastward during the evening hours and to eastern Oklahoma during the late evening hours. Jody's in the house, Team AT, I see you. Wind gusts up around 60 to maybe as high as 80 miles per hour. We've got hail up to about 1 inch in diameter. And then, yes, we actually I think are going to see a couple of tornadoes across the state. And let's talk about where those may be. Well, here's a look at the Texas Tech model. I like this model a lot sometimes during the springtime. What we're going to see is, what in the world? Do that again. What? That is not what that should have been. Let me do this. Okay, you're going to be a punk, aren't you? Try that again. Okay, whatever. Stupid technical difficulties. All right, I'm going to kill this one thing I got going on, and I'm going to reload it because it didn't play nice. And I don't like it when stuff doesn't play nice. I swear we're going to get to the weather here in just a second. Just hang tight. One more second. All right. Close that. Okay. There it is. See? That's what I was trying to get, was the arrow. All that work. Okay, so anyway, we're going to go through time here. And this little batch of shower activities in the morning. So maybe even rumble of thunder with it. This is for the first part of our Tuesday. Kind of a cool, chilly start. Kind of a little damp. Then that wave will move off. All right, so this is the 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock hour. And now you start to see the severe weather start to bubble up here in western and west central Oklahoma. And these little red streaks you see here are helicity tracks. Helicity tracks indicates rotation in the storm. In other words, these storms will be supercellular in nature as they move into central Oklahoma by 6 p.m. over the Oklahoma City metro area. You can see the models still favor the northern half of the state, trailing it right through Oklahoma City. This is the trend they've been doing, but I still can't rule out something down south. But they continue the trend of kind of having most of those focus, the strong ones, to the north. There you can see, though, after dark, as we're heading into, 8 o'clock, it does do fire eventually storms down here in southern Oklahoma. And then these, of course, will all move into eastern Oklahoma. Let's see, for Tulsa area, looks like it's arriving by 9 o'clock. So this will be a very fast move. These storms will move pretty quickly. And they're actually out of the state by 11 p.m. to midnight. They're gone. And then they'll move on into Arkansas. They'll be much weaker in Arkansas. So if you're watching from Arkansas, it'll be midnight hours. They won't even hold a candle to what they're going to be in Oklahoma. Okay. Same thing for Texas. All right. It's kind of a weak line of storms that moves through at that point in time. So that's the kind of big picture of things and the timing of that. Now for the details, what we really need to focus on is the dew point value. And look how the dew points try to race in here. So this is this little blue line here represents 60-degree dew points. They're coming in from the Gulf of Mexico, and you really need those dew points to be up around 60 for tornadic activity typically. Fall, you can sometimes get away with things a little bit different, but general rule of thumb. But what happens is they kind of get just here in Oklahoma City metro, then they kind of get shoved to the south and east. So it's a timing thing. So there's a front coming in. And we'll take a look at that right here on this map. So this is also a dew point map, and we've got what would be the dry line doing something like this. All right. So this is the big punch of dryer that comes in out of the southwest. And then you have your little area of low pressure up here across Woodward here in northwest Oklahoma. This is in the 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock time frame is what this high resolution model has. You have your little warm front that kind of comes up like this. And then finally, you've got your cold front that comes in usually on the backside, kind of like this. All right. So what happens is this whole system just works its way to the east as the upper level energy pushes it through. And you often get favorable severe storm initiation in this quadrant. Ooh, let me use a different color because I didn't show it very well. Let's just pick red. In this little quadrant right here is usually where you get the best area of severe storms to develop because it's closer to the triple point, which better surface features for wind and moisture convergence, et cetera, plus what we call the dryline bulge, which is where this area of the dryline bulges out. So those are kind of the areas we usually watch for severe storms initiation. So that's here in west central Oklahoma. So that does include the greater Oklahoma City metro area. Now, details on this, underneath the area of low pressure, the models do try to form storms bubbling up already out here along the cold front that develops in the panhandle of Texas by, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So that's just kind of beginning stages of it. Now remember the dew points coming on in. Oh, I forgot to check. Mitch in the house with 200 stars. Thank you, Mitch. You're awesome. Anna's right behind him at 50 stars. Thank you, Anna. You're a sweetheart. Appreciate those. So what's going to happen, this is the the Supercell Composite Map. So the Supercell Composite Map is where the best ingredients are to get supercell thunderstorms. Well, as you can see, they're right smack dab here in central Oklahoma, right up and down I-35. Again, includes all of central northern Oklahoma and even southern Oklahoma. Now, that doesn't always mean you'll get storms down here in this region. That's just the favorable area for ingredients, all right? Now, if we look at one step further, we look at wind shear in the atmosphere conducive for tornadoes, along with a bunch of other parameters, ingredients that we kind of call a basket of things, indices. it has a peak of tornado potential here over central Oklahoma. This is actually Canadian County and Grady County that points down south and even points up north. So again, I do believe we're probably going to see a tornado or two out of this event for tomorrow. Now, the wind gust potential we talked about, high resolution models kind of tries to pick where some of maybe the stronger storms will be in that aspect. In the Brown area, it's got winds up around 60 to 70 miles per hour in there. The max actually says 77 on the model, so there's a potential there to get some winds that get a little carried away on some of these stronger thunderstorms. And then we talk about the rainfall amounts. We're looking at about half an inch to about an inch in the blue to purple area. So that encompasses a good area where you're going to see these storms moving through from western and northern Oklahoma. And then it kind of depends on how things evolve down south. If it kind of stays quiet for the most part until the evening, you kind of get a lull in the rainfall totals here in southern Oklahoma, I'm afraid. But then they'll pick back up in eastern Oklahoma during the overnight, or evening, late evening and the early part of the overnight, because again, by midnight they're out of here. So that's kind of how the precipitation goes. So that's everything in a nutshell. Then I'm going to look at this model was still coming in when I was going live, and it usually trickles in a little later. So I wanted to see a couple of the indices on that. So it keeps the trend of the dew point values surging in here right across into Oklahoma City right at 6 o'clock. I mean, this is literally a sweet spot of last-ditch effort. Everything arrives right when it has to get storms to form and to get severe weather to occur and to get the tornado potential to occur. I mean, there's a very small window, and if you miss the window, it's done. It's very narrow, and it's a 1 hour window that just transfers from one county over to another county, over to another county, and it's clear behind it. So it's a very fast-moving, progressive event. Okay, so that was a look at dew points. Look at the composite indices for the significant tornado parameters, see if that's changed any. And nope, still anchored over the same area. So this is around, what time are we at? 3, 4, this is 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 5 o'clock, or excuse me, that's 6 o'clock. So that's 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock. So still anchored over west central Oklahoma for potential for tornadoes, and on down south if any storm can actually get going down here. Again, they're not very favorable, but should one form, again, that's a favorable area. Let me think. Anything else I want to look at on here? I don't know if I want this or not. Yeah. Okay. So I think... Oh, and let me show you what happens. Here's a sneak peek just for Sunday, because that was in my blog. We talked about this last night. Brandon's in the house with 100 stars. Thank you, my brother. Appreciate those stars tonight. A lot of you guys are throwing those stars. I love it. All right, so we're going to see snow on Sunday. The European model was very excited about an upper level low coming overhead. And when that happens, it gives us potential for some of the wet flakes mixed in with some rain. Well, what has happened in the last 24 hours since we've last discussed that? Here is a look at the upper level low coming into the Oklahoma Panhandle and Texas Panhandle. So far, so good. This is Saturday night. Now, the old model data had it coming due east, cross right over central Oklahoma, then kind of continuing on its track. Does it stay that way? Let's find out. Well, here's all of a sudden, in the Sunday morning, it's not over central Oklahoma. It's still sitting over the Panhandle. And then it just goes due south. It's trying to run to Mexico. It's trying to get out of this whole COVID environment across the U.S., and it's going to go to Cancun, where a lot of Americans have gone, including myself. But anyway, it's not going to make it that far. But as you can see on Monday morning, it's down in Houston. So this is not conducive for us at all for snow. I'm really upset about that. Now, it's just one run. It's a very difficult transitionary pattern. It's very fast-paced. It's very chaotic. This is not out of the ordinary, unexpected. We're still several days away. It could settle down again and go back to its old self. So we'll see what happens. Again, it's a trend that we're looking for that to happen. Otherwise, it's going to be wet and just chilly this weekend. So here's a look at that forecast for Oklahoma City. We'll be in the 60s tomorrow, and then we're going to be a little cooler than that for Wednesday. Not terrible. Just overnight lows, of course, will be cold. And then back in the mid-60s for Thursday. So Thanksgiving still looks great, guys. There's no complaints on Thanksgiving. Your weather, you're going to love it. After that, though, we do cool back down again. So we're probably in the 50s, maybe even some 40s for highs as we go into the extended outlook. Overnight lows do get colder though. We're getting back into the right around freezing and then below freezing. So that's what we have to look forward to in the extended. But you know what? This is the way it goes. This is how we transition from fall to winter. So everything is pretty much right on track. Oh, real quick, I didn't show you this. I meant to. This is the Storm Prediction Center outline for the 2% ring of a tornado. Now, 2%, you're thinking a 2% chance. In a probability speaking world, that's how they categorize it. It means a very low probability. It does not mean zero. It just means they do not expect many to occur over this broad general area. But it does indicate that's where the threat is. So if I were to zoom this in for Oklahoma, you see it does extend out here into western Oklahoma, Elk City, Clinton, Woodward, Enid, all of way down here south to Duncan and Lawton. Again, they include Ardmore, Pauls Valley. So even though the models didn't really produce anything down this area, that's still the general region where things could happen. McAllister, and then of course it goes on farther to the east. But as you mentioned earlier, the storms that do move into this region after midnight are going to be far weaker. So this will eventually really get cut back. This is just the first stab at it. I think it'll be basically just be, the whole thing will shrink down. If I had to, say your better opportunities, it would be something like this. Probably something like this is what I would do for the tornado potential for tomorrow. So much smaller area, but we'll see. All right, so that's the other thing I want to talk to you about. And we're done. Brandon, appreciate that again on the stars deal. If you're joining late, there's a link that I put in the broadcast. I don't know if it didn't get pinned, but it's in there. I just don't know if it highlights my comments and keeps them there, but I'll go back and pin it. But there's just a direct link to where you can get a AT's weather zip hoodie. A lot of you guys said, I love your hoodies, but I want a zip hoodie. Well, I've got one, and it's soft, and it's awesome. So the whole clothing line is high end. I don't like crappy clothes, so it costs a lot more because of that, but it's well worth it. It lasts forever. Okay, so let me think. Let me go to your comments, questions, concerns, your outrage, your hate, your love, whatever you may have. All right, so Jim's in the house for YouTube here this evening. Thanks for posting. You bet. Gotcha. And then, so a couple of you guys don't like watching on Facebook. I hear you. That's why I'm on multiple platforms. I try to. There's an old saying, Diana throwing in 100 stars again. I see you, girl. So there is you're welcome. There's an old saying, you can please some of the people some of the time, but you can't please all the people all the time. And even though I live and die by that, because it is true, I still try to do as much as I can for as many people as I can. Because I want everybody to be able to be reached when it comes to the weather information.
Throwing in 100 stars again.
Whoa, let's mute that. It was loud. If you guys on Twitter, Periscope, if you have any questions, shoot them my way real quick. Now's your chance to ask anything. For my patrons here, let's see real quick. Karen's in the house. Paul is here. Patty, yes, you did make it. Ladies, good to see you as always.
Don't everybody.
If you have any other questions, shoot them my way real quick. And on the main page, Joanna says she loves snow and happy Thanksgiving. Yes, happy Thanksgiving to you, Joanna. Appreciate that. Happy Thanksgiving to all of you out there. Hope you have a great day. Let's go up a little bit on the comments. I can only scroll up so far, so I'll see what you guys had. My daughter's driving from Muskogee to Oklahoma City tomorrow, starting around 6 to 9. She will be in a mess, yes. Again, mostly it's just storms, though. It's whether or not she hits a big one or just a tiny one, or maybe in between storms, that can't be determined at this time. But have her keep my weather app with her. It's called AT's Weather to Go, and it'll warn her if she's going to be in anything that's dangerous. It'll actually tell her. So based off of her GPS location. So she'll be good to go. And she can pull the radar map up and track them and all that kind of stuff. Diana, thank you. You are so sweet. I try to be a shining star. How about that? Positive star. Orlando here, listening for the Sunday weather. Stephanie's in the house. Oh boy, well, I know. We'll see. I'm still gonna be hopeful for it. I'm not gonna give up on it yet, but we got to see a trend develop better than what's happening right now. It's a chaotic trend. I don't want a chaotic trend. Kimberly's in from Newcastle. Sharon let it snow. She's wanting it ready for it. Jody wants me to take my clothes off and put on a hoodie and model it right now. That's not going to happen. I would have to actually get a picture and get a. You can't see it. You just go see my head. That's not going to do any good. But I'll get some pictures ready. Let's see. Gonna hit just north of us in central Texas, halfway between Abilene and Waco. So yeah, you guys aren't gonna get a whole lot of this in Texas. Cindy's in the house with 50 stars. Thank you, Cindy. You're a sweetheart. What's percentage of rain for tomorrow about 8 a.m.? I'd like to go for a good walk. Beth. Well, Beth, take your umbrella with you. It should have scattered showers around. I would assume you're going to get wet. I don't even know where you are, but I'm assuming you're going to get wet, at least in the form of sprinkles. Now, you can use my weather app, AT's Weather to Go. You can look at that radar right before you walk out, and if you got a 15-minute window, go for it. Go nuts. If it's going to pour on you, wait till that first round moves by, then head on out. That's how I would do it. It's the best way to do it. That's what I would do, and I'm the weather guy. Because you look at, when it comes to forecasting, there's something called nowcasting in just real time. So in other words, you know rain's going to happen, you know it's scattered in nature, you know the time frame. Now, is it going to be exactly at my house? And that's when you look at the radar data and you go, oh, Aaron's got an arrow on there and the arrow going right to my house, so it's coming. I better hurry, Or it's not coming my way at all and I can go out there and walk or play in the rain. Whatever you want to do. All right, so Laney, yes, tornadoes in November, believe it or not. We do have them every time of the year in Oklahoma. Not often. Our biggest event for tornadoes is a 3-month stretch in the spring, usually from March to May. And then sometimes you have a couple either side of that, but that's the main bulk of it. And then any time of the year we can get a stray one or two or something like that. Even in December, believe it or not. Let's see. Carmen is reaching out to Jody. Carmen, it's always good to see you. You are a diehard. I do see you checking in every night. You're awesome. Lene, let's see. Lene, I'm always curious how these fall severe weather setups ingredients would fare if they occurred in the springtime. This setup here coming in for tomorrow, if it was springtime, we'd be up something creek. I was going to try to think of a PC way of saying that, and my brain just stopped working. So, yeah, it'd be a little bit more of a mess. We'd have a lot more tornadoes if this was a May event, and this is the way the pattern's set up, just so you know. It would be you'd be hearing all kinds of gloom and doom forecasts of tornado outbreak and blah blah blah. That's what you'd be hearing. But since it's November, it's kind of a sleeper event, sleeper deal. And that's gonna be the dangerous ones, because that's when you don't get all that hoopla and everybody's not even paying attention. All of a sudden you get a tornado and they're like, "Why nobody said anything? They didn't scream bloody murder on the TV." Well, that's the way it goes when you hype stuff so many times. When you don't hype it, then all of a sudden everybody thinks it's not a big deal. That's human nature for you, though. All right, you're welcome, Mitch. Glad to help you out for the holidays. I need to, at some point here. Happy Thanksgiving back at you, Janet. No social distancing for Thanksgiving, Cindy. Now, I told Jody to stay on the other side of the house for Thanksgiving. I said, keep your distance. Oh, just kidding. She'd give me a shiner if I did that. She's a tough girl. What's the percentage of rain for tomorrow? Oh, yeah, I already answered that one. I'm sorry, I'm just still scrolling through everything. Just join. Could you repeat all that, please, Chad Bradley? Here, man, this is all you need to know. You ready? This is the ground, okay? It's gonna storm tomorrow. You're welcome. Man, they need to bring back a new version of Twister. They got to do it. How does it look to do Christmas lights on Friday? It looks fine. Knock yourself out. Hubby just walked in here, take my clothes off and model a hoodie, and goes, "What are you watching?" What kind of weather is he talking about? That's hysterical, Ashley. Oh my goodness. That's too funny. All right. You gotta be careful. Keep Split Creek. There you go. What are you working out now, Alfonso? I don't know what you mean. Mike Morgan would have on the sparkly tie for sure. Yeah, he definitely would probably put on his sparkly tie. I will not comment any further. Up the creek without a paddle. That's a good one, Carmen. Poop Creek. That's another good one. Well, there's all kinds of... You guys are coming up with all kinds of creeks. Fill in the blank. Yukon prediction. Susie, Stormy. You need to look, as they would say, look west, young man. Or go west, young man. But as a female, I would just tell you to look west. Because there should be some storms approaching from that direction. By 5 o'clock, probably, is the rough time frame. And then it will move quickly through Oklahoma City between the 5 and 7 o'clock hour. So it won't be hanging around too long. All right, that have answered everybody's questions, concerns there on the main page. I got my app coming from snow in Indiana to severe weather in Oklahoma. Oh, goody, Jessica. Yeah, you are. Good job. Jennifer, I just got here. When were you doing your clueless guy impersonation? Well, you miss out. You know, you got to be on time. You catch all the shenanigans. I don't like, let's see, Not Another Day on YouTube. AT, just know I'm throwing imaginary stars over here on YouTube. Are they Chinese stars? No, actually, believe it or not, you can actually send stars somewhat on YouTube. It's called Super Chat. So it's a little different thing. Everybody's trying to do the same. They're all trying to copy off one another to kind of make it a universal thing. Charlotte's in the house with 100 stars. Thank you, Charlotte. Appreciate you. So if you don't do the stars game on Facebook, Twitter and Periscope is actually now doing stars, but it's not active on my account for some reason. I don't know why. And then, but YouTube, you can do Super Chat, and that's the way to do it. That's actually kind of first how I got started on that. There was a gentleman that would always throw me some Super Chats. I thought, hey, that's cool. So, and then Facebook did the whole stars thing. I was like, all right, sign me up. So Angela's in the house with 50 stars. Thank you, Angela. Glad I could entertain you and, keep it somewhat lighthearted, even when we're talking about tornadoes. So look at that right there. Super Chat. See that pop up? Let me think here. Anything else I want to bring up? Was late because of all the kiddos and their shenanigans. Jennifer. Oh, no. Those kids and those shenanigans. I got news for you. I'm engaged to a kid who often has shenanigans. So the shenanigans never ends. It just goes through phases and stages. Our new barn is going up tomorrow. Please no tornadoes in Blanchard, Charlotte. I'll tell you what, we'll see what we can do. That whole Blanchard, Newcastle area, though, for whatever reason, it loves to be a good spot for action down there. So I hear you. That's where things seem to get going a lot of times. Let's see here. PM or AM, late, Jolene. Okay, so you're wanting specific times. There's 2 rounds. First round of rain in the morning when you get up early. That lasts through late morning. This just wave that just moves across the state, so it's just scattered all over the place. Very light. There might be rumble of thunder, but most of it's pretty light. And then the second wave is the afternoon from 3 o'clock into western Oklahoma. Storms have been getting developed, and then they move into central Oklahoma between the hours of 5 and 7. So that's pure Oklahoma City Metro, I-35 up and down. And then that quickly moves east into Tulsa by 9 o'clock, and then in southeast Oklahoma by midnight. It's out of here. So that's the timeline progression as it moves its way from west to east over the state. Wind gusts up around 65, 70. Hail size is about 1 inch. And again, potential for probably a couple of tornadoes is the way things are looking. And I will likely be going live to cover those for you tomorrow at that time frame. So I do plan on covering them live. Should we be getting the tornadoes? Emma, can you explain the star? So it's a Facebook thing when you where you can write your comment. If you look to the right of that, you're going to see a little star icon, either in your computer or your tablet or your phone. And you sign up to Facebook. I think Facebook gives you like free 50 stars, I think, to start out with. And then you can just send those to any creator that you like, that you watch. If you like their content, you give them some stars. So, and then you can always get more stars. And how that happens, I don't know. It'll take you some steps. But Kathy's in the house. She just sent me her 50 stars. Thank you, Kathy. I used to chat with you at Red Rock. That's why I asked where you're working out. Oh, I gotcha. So, Ashley, you're hilarious. So, I am engaged, yes. So, married hopefully sometime soon. COVID's really chapping my hide. It's really throwing a wrench in the plans, that's for sure. So I work out at 4 Star Fitness, and I've still got a membership at Gold's Gym. I just haven't been there in forever. So those are the two since that gym closed. So when I was competing, I would kind of use both a bit, and then it just depends on which location I was close to for the 4 Star. They have multiple locations now, but that's what I do now. I haven't competed in a couple of years because I've been busy doing things, and then COVID happened and all that stuff. So, yeah. But I still eat right, still work out, because remember, guys and gals, for the 128 on Facebook that are watching, however many of you right now on YouTube, 27 of you, and the 7 of you on Twitter, Periscope, all for this really moment in time, because everybody's pretty much moved on to go to the news or go to bed. COVID hits hardest those that are obese, have 4 or more comorbidities, for anyone under the age of 80, right? And then 80 onward for those that are close to their life expectancy of 79 on average. So over 80, if you have any issues at all, it's going to hit you a lot harder. But the rest of you will be fine for the most part. So you always have some freak occurrences where somebody gets susceptible or gets really sick or even dies, which is always sad and tragic, and you always have to have empathy for those. But just statistic wise, you take emotion out of it, just pure raw data, it's the obesity that's really is the number one driver. So if you can get your health in check, hit the gym, get that diet in order, you're going to do yourself a world of good. COVID should be a wake-up call for health. In other words, your own physical health, so that you can fight these types of viruses, because I guarantee you we're going to have another one. It's just a matter of time. You got too many evil people in the world that like to play God, and they like to design things that they shouldn't be designing in a lab, and it's going to get out. Nothing ever stays, where it's supposed to be. It always gets out. And the rest of us got to suffer for it. So, that's just a little information from me to you to help you out. But that's how I would view it. Make sure your health is your priority number one, and then that way you got the best chance against anything that comes your way. Because if you're starting out, at the end, you're gonna have a lot harder of a battle. Let's put it that way. You still may come out ahead of it, but most people do. So that's the good news. It's just gonna be a lot harder on you to do. Kois, is that how you say your name? Or Kois? I'm total butcher that. I'm so sorry. I have never seen that name before. Kois Bartley. Thank you for the 50 stars, though. If you could type back and go hyphenate it for me so I can learn how to pronounce it properly, that'd be awesome. But very unique name. Ashley, you're hilarious. I'm glad you let your friend know. And Angela, yeah, I know, right? Although this is what I'm afraid of. We're going to get into 2021, and then we're going to look back and go, man, I wish I could have 2020 again. If I'm in a position of saying that, I'm out. I'm done. I'm selling everything I got. I'm going to go get some spot on some island somewhere, and I'm going to live off the beach. There's no way I can handle this times 10. Screw that, man. This is what living's like. This ain't living. So we're all gonna have to revolt. A group revolt is what we're gonna have to do. Because this whole lockdown business, they can't keep going. The masks, the lockdowns, the everything, just all that stuff, man. No way. I'm not ready for another year of that nonsense. So we're gonna have to just stand up and just collectively say, screw this. I will tell you this on a serious note, because you have to joke and make, fun of things only because laughter, is a medicine. And if you don't try to make light of our darkest moments, you're going to get depressed and there's nowhere to be. So you do have to somehow try to make, moments that you can enjoy out of something that's bad. But What was I going to say? Because I just got off my entire train of thought. What was it? Oh, yeah. The problem is, you heard the expression, once the genie's out of the box, you can't put them back in, out of the bottle, can't put them back in or whatever. But on a virus like that, or any virus for really, man doesn't stop it. You can't stop a virus. You can't just say, we're just going to do this and we're going to wipe it out. Man does not wipe out the virus. The virus has to run its course, and it runs through mankind, right? And then those that are survival of the fittest, which sucks, I get it, because it's not fair. Guess what? Life isn't fair. I could die tomorrow, and that's just the way it is. It's not fair. But the virus has to run its course. What they say, a virus is going to virus, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. You might try to do things to protect yourself, but eventually a lot of people, and most people, are going to get it. So if that's the case, no matter what you do, because think of it this way. Think of it like the horror movie that they've seen, and as soon as you let your guard down, that's when it jumps out at you, right? So in a horror movie, that's the way that goes. In real life, as soon as you one day forget to wear a mask, or you one day don't do this, or you one day don't do that, it gets you, and it's just the way it's going to be, unfortunately. And they had made that analogy when this thing first came out. It's like basically most people are going to get this at one point or another. Angela, 100 stars. You're so awesome. Thank you. She's giving me preaching money. This is my preaching stars. I'll take it. So remember, I approach everything on a scientific, logical level, and Jody hates it because I don't like to use a lot of emotion when you have stuff like that. I like to stay grounded so I can keep others grounded, because it's very easy to lose control on an emotional side. And once that happens, it's very hard to get your prefrontal cortex back in the game, because your emotional side is just going crazy, right? And once you get that anxiety going, it's a self-perpetuating problem that is hard to snap out of. How you can relate to that in your normal daily life, and especially when relationships with men and women, is you get into an argument, right? And you get in that argument, whatever it's about, and it may not even be about the actual core reason. It's 10 other reasons, because your brain's gone in 10 different directions and it's just going to vomit all at once. Well, you don't just stop yourself in the middle of that and go, oh, well, I just kind of got a little carried away there. I'm just going to go right back to my normal sane self. We'll just sit down here logically and calmly, and we'll discuss this out, no problem. You don't do that in the heat of the battle. You're spun up and you go. And then eventually you calm down because you get it all out, or somebody leaves, or who knows, whatever happens, then you can cooler heads, then prevail, and then you work it out. So you can take that little thing that happens in everybody's household, you can apply that to anything in life, including a virus, and then then that can really get carried away from the dumb things that the politicians will do that make no sense. Like they close the restaurants at 10 because everybody knows if you're out after 10 o'clock, the virus will get you. 10:01 is going to get you. But at 9:59, you're safe. It's that stupidity. There's no science in any of that nonsense. That's just power. And it's frustrating to see people take advantage of power opportunities. There's an old expression, never let a crisis go to waste. And politicians will never let a good crisis go to waste. They will use it to their best advantage. And so, unfortunately, for us, we just have to rise up and put our foot down and say, you know what? We let you have your stupid rules, and it's not making any difference. It's still the same. Cases go up, masks or no masks. Cases go up, shutdowns or no shutdowns. So you have to look at a bigger picture. If everybody stays tunnel visioned on, am I going to get sick or not, right? Am I have to go to the hospital or not? Am I going to die or not? If you focus on just those three things, which is very self-centered, it doesn't allow you to look beyond yourself and look at the big picture, which is suicides through the roof, child abuse through the roof, spousal abuse through the roof, loss of jobs through the roof, loss of income through the roof, businesses shut down, never coming back. You get all of those that, you get cancers that don't get checked properly, and then metastasize to another level, and then they die. So you have all these other secondary effects that no one focuses on, no one cares about. That's the most bizarre thing to me. It's like, where, you'll take the stance of, if you don't wear your mask, you're going to kill me, or if I don't wear my mask, I'm going to kill you, right? And they're just focused on that. But they don't care about everybody else that's going to die from the lockdowns and everything else, because it's all about them. So that's the frustrating part for the human mind, is how do you get yourself out of that me mindset and you get toward a broader picture so you can see things more clearly. Because what happens when you get that broader picture, you start to look at all the data. Again, this is where the logical data analysis comes into play. You start to realize, holy crap, first off, the virus isn't going to go away, right? It just has to burn out. So it's got to run through most of us, and most of us will be fine. It's still got a 99.x fill in the blank survival rate, which is great. I mean, if you're going to have a virus that goes through the whole world, it's good that it has a 99 point something % survival rate, because imagine if it didn't. Then you want to talk about panic. But that's the most frustrating thing for me, is everybody loses sight of 99 point whatever. And you go, where'd you get that number? CDC, the WHO, all the research, everything keeps coming out. So that's, and it'll be adjusted and changed in minor quantities as, we've learned more, and, more cases happen than the deaths happen. But I just look at things as a scientific point of view. I could care less about the emotional component and the hype, the fear, the doom. I worked in the media for 12 years. I got my fill of that stuff. I don't want to hear any of it. It serves no purpose. It doesn't help. If I were to stay on a platform and go, oh my gosh, cases are tripling, quadrupling, now they're 10 times higher, and you go, right, yes, I'm going to panic now. So what does that mean? What do I do with that? You don't do anything with it. You panic more. Well, cases are going to get even higher tomorrow. Okay, we got to do something. You can't do anything. That's the whole point. That's why it's a frustrating argument. You can watch them go up, and knowing that everybody's already locked down, everybody's already social distancing, everybody's already masked. It's just the way it's going to be. And once you accept that, and that's the problem, there are two things you have to do in relationships, and this is the way it is in life. One, you have to accept the things that you have no control over, cannot change, or people and their behavior. You cannot change them. You must accept it and find a way to be content. So acceptance and being content. Those are two things most people just have a hard time coming to grips with. If they're able to do that, then things will be a lot better. But now remember, I'm preaching because I've got it all figured out at 47 years old. Tomorrow, life will teach me something, and I will be a complete dumbass. I will learn something new, and then I will reset and go, now I got it all figured out, and the next day life will humble me again. So that's my point of saying, is I do not have this all figured out. I just learn these little lessons along life, and I apply them as best I can to everything. So as a scientist, I am livid at the whole environment. I'm livid at how political it is. I'm livid at how you have to pick a side. Everything now is picking a side. You're either on this team or this team, and if you don't agree, we're going to war. I am so over it. People have lost the sight of the big picture, and they're so focused in their minutia of their own nonsense that they can't, in a counseling session, and I always go back to relationship couples. Why? Because I've had some counseling for relationships to work through things. So you have your view, right? And you're steadfast on it. That's just the way it is. The problem is the other person has their view, and they're steadfast on it. You're supposed to stand back to back. One of you looks at one side of the room, describes what's in the room. The other turns around, they describe what they see. And it can be two completely different views, even though it's the same stuff around them. And so you have to find a way to work that together, not, attack each other. And so anytime I say anything, I don't say much on Facebook outside of just the weather. I just keep it real simple here. But on Twitter, I'll say a few extra things because it's a platform where you can do that more. Plus, I like to poke the bear a little bit. And anytime I do, the hate that comes out from all these people with love in their hearts, boy, the hate they will. When that Twitter mob hits, it's embarrassing. It's really bad, and it just shows that a lot of people have a long ways to go at bettering themselves. Because remember, your mama was right. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And the golden rule. Remember the golden rule? They even teach the golden rule anymore? Or was that lost in my generation? So those are two things that everybody lived by. Oh my gosh, it'd be a completely different climate. But it ain't gonna happen. So, boy, I have gone off on a diatribe. Boy, you guys are in for a treat. It was all those stars you guys threw me. I started preaching to you. So I appreciate those. But so that's the deal. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can. I just post a lot of scientific studies, and then I point out the highlights. It's always positive. In other words, I don't give you gloom and doom ever. Like in the weather, I don't give you gloom and doom, and on the COVID side, I don't give you gloom and doom. I give you what the good things is to take away, or I point out hypocrisy or just stuff that doesn't make sense, or whatever. So like Juan, you just made a comment about the mask not protecting the wearer, for example. All right. Well, there's been like the CDC is irritating because at one point they'll make a statement, 2 months later they'll change it to a complete 180. Then the guy will come out and he'll go, this mask protects, whatever. And then the researcher come out and says, no, it doesn't. So how are you supposed to make any heads or tails about all that? And the answer is you don't, because no one freaking knows. It's all a mess. It's a virus. And so they just make stuff up because, it sounds like a good thing to do. Let's do this. Well, that didn't work so well. Well, we'll try that one. Well, that didn't go too well either. We still got a virus. Yeah, because it has to run its course. You can't stop it. Oh, I'm so frustrated. Trust me. I am. So Sherry's already yelling at me. You are wrong. Sick people beg to differ. I don't know what that's in relation to. But I was sick. I got COVID. How about that? What are you going to do with that information? Well, you're fill in the blank. So now you're dismissing me because I had COVID and it didn't match what somebody else had. So the issue, Deanna, weather please. I did the weather an hour ago. We're on coffee talk time with AT. So Sherry goes. So we'll read some of my Twitter posts so you can get updated on the debate on masks, just so you know what's going on. Like, for example, I just posted a new one. There was a complete mask study, and in the end, the authors decided that the only way to get 70% blockage of particles that are 1 micron in size or larger was to wear 3 masks, 3 layers with different materials, different fabrics, and fit tightly around the face. And I'm going, oh my gosh, we're to that point now, right? They did not test oxygen saturation levels as to how that would impact your being able to supply your body with enough oxygen to keep your levels up, and they did not say, okay, if that blocks 70% of the virions, so all the virus particles, what about the other 30%? Are those enough to get you sick? And if they are, then what's the point on blocking 70 if 30% gets you sick? So they can't quantify what percentage gets you sick, and they can't quantify the amount, the quantity, the volume to get you sick. It's not possible. So it's just, it's like a zoo, and it's like the animals are running the zoo. And any given day, it's something different. And all I know is that it's all contradictory and it's all fear. That's what I know. But when you look at the actual numbers, the only thing I can tell you to help cool you down, calm you down, is the survival rate is still 98.9%. It varies between 999999999 for kids to 96.4 for people over the age of either 70 or 80. I think it's 70. But even then, that's a great survival rate. And it sucks to lose a life, and life is not fair. And there are so many things that take our lives, and you're never ready for it, and you don't know when it's going to happen. But you can't live your life in perpetual fear of that. You just live it, and you let what happens, right? You make the best of it while you're here. Now, there are two aspects of that. There's a religious side and the non-religious side. The non-religious side, that group typically looks at their life and more fear when it comes to death, the topic of death, because for them, that's it. There is no afterlife. There's no nothing. So they better get whatever they can done now, because once that's over, it's over, right? And they have to have meaning. The religious side has some form of afterlife with it, to where when I go, I got a whole nother start to do whatever else. And if I didn't complete my task or whatever, doesn't matter, because my life keeps going on. So they have a completely differing view of death. So one is more at peace, whereas more is more anxious and fearful. So I'll throw that at you too, let you decide what you want to do with that. So Sherry's blowing up the post here. So she mentioned 3 comorbidities. Sherry does. So that's why Sherry's very upset. So, and I don't know what your comorbidities are, but the studies show if you have 4 or more, you're in a high risk of having severe complications. Doesn't mean you're going to die, just means you're going to have more severe complications. And people need to understand that when you see the obesity as a main factor, the 4 or more comorbidities as a factor, and the age greater than 80 as a factor, those are still not death sentences. They're not automatic death sentences. You still have a 90, X% chance of survival. Now, eventually they're going to get all these numbers worked out, and it may take years. Who knows? And the databases may be so contaminated, we may not actually get ever, a real number, at least a ballpark idea. So keep that in mind. So Sherry, for you and for anyone else, you got to take care of your health as best you can. You got to do what you can to make it better. Now, I know sometimes you have a genetic issue you can't do anything about. I get that. And honestly, I got news for you. I was talking to my doctor the other day. He does talks to where he's convinced, this based off of his own practicing data set, is those that are on 4 or more medications have a shorter life expectancy. You'll die sooner than everyone else. So what do you do with that? It's not COVID, but guess what? It's something that's still going to kill you, and kill you before you're probably ready to go. So how do you get off 4 or more medications? Well, if it's health related, like diet, exercise related, that's under your control, of something you can do. If it's genetic, to where you just, it's the luck of the draw, and you got bad genes passed down, environmental factors that trigger those genes or whatever, then, you got to work with what you got, and know that you might not live as long as others, But there are some things you can do to kind of help offset that. So for example, Sherry, you said you've got diabetes, kidney disease, and hypertension. So in those particular cases, what you can do for like kidney disease. So and this is where unfortunately people just don't have all the information they need. So there was a guy I knew. He was a supplement manufacturer. He would design designer products for supplements and supplement companies in the bodybuilding world. Well, he wanted to design a new form of protein that wasn't on the market, that was safe for people with kidney issues and kidney patients. And he did a trial test at a kidney hospital in Dallas on his product. And it was protein, because those that suffer from kidney issues, they have a hard time processing protein, right? It can build up into toxic levels, the byproducts and stuff. So he goes, I'm going to design this product, and we're going to test it, and it performed flawlessly. And then he ended up, ironically, this is the craziest thing, with kidney disease, to the point to where he couldn't eat real food, protein, or anything like that. So he actually had to use his own product. So twist of fate. I mean, you couldn't have seen that coming. So in that particular case, the doctors gave him 6 months to live. He lasted 2 more years, and he used his own product, his protein, to get through that. And when I met him, his food, he was eating like a white bread. I think it was just a mustard and a thin piece of turkey, or something really not bodybuilder type food that he would have normally ate, just because his health had changed to that point. So that he would supplement with his protein drink, and then he'd be fine. So that was that protein, if you're interested in, was called HumaPro. So you can look that up, and so if that's one of your issues, that'll help out with your kidney issue, but that'll get your health kind of going back on the positive side. Diabetes type 2 obviously is easily to fix. The type 1 obviously is not, but it's with medication you're fine. So again, as long as you don't use those three things as an excuse not to take care of your health on the diet side and exercise side, and you still incorporate those other issues become less of an issue. The more fit you are, the more cardiovascular you are, the less you have to worry about hypertension. So those diet and exercise still helps to control some of those genetic issues that you suffer. And so when something like COVID comes around, it taxes your immune system, you're in a better position to fight it. So again, it's not a death sentence. Now, and the other thing is, this is where people don't, and I'll go off on this one thing, go off on this one tangent, and then I'm done. Promise, because I got to get moving. What do you do to prevent like a bad case of COVID, right? Vitamin D3 is a common denominator for those that get it and have to suffer the symptoms. All right, so make sure you get D3. And I think I take like 2,000 or 3,000 IUs a day, and I've done this for 20 years or whatever. Zinc is another 30 milligrams of zinc, and I've done that all the time anyway, because you need it, and that's safe doses, recommended, and again, 20 years I've been doing that. So you do those two things, and that automatically helps you on the lesser of symptoms. Now, what happens when you do actually get it, and how do you fight it? So this is where, if you watch the media, you're not going to like to hear what I have to say. Now remember, I don't give a two craps about what the media has to say, because the media is garbage. How do I know? Because I worked in it. And then if you actually pay attention and you see how divisive it is, you have to pick a side, that should right there be a red flag. You should never have to look at the media and pick a side. They're not supposed to be instigators. They're supposed to be neutral. Switzerland, they just provide this side and they provide this side and they step back, and that's it, right? But that's the whole landscape's changed. So that's a whole other topic some other time. So what I did, I threw all that out, and I read all the studies because I want to know. And I looked at all the doctors that treated patients. I didn't look at people that were in some head department of some university that looked down on everybody else and said, no, don't do that because I said so. I looked at people in the field that actually treated this stuff, and they had actual real live people, real sample sizes, blood work, results, and so I looked at that. So I looked at in all the studies. So what it came down to is, and this was what got blackballed, was HCQ right off the bat, and there has been so many studies of that, all buried, and it's just fine. There's no side effects for HCQ. It's been around for 60-something years, treats for malaria. But the interesting idea behind HCQ is it's a facilitator to get the zinc into the cell for the virus. And what that does is it slows down or neutralizes the replication of the virus. It's the replication of the virus that gets out of control, which starts the feedback loop of your body attacking itself and then going through this whole process. So the idea is to get that zinc into those cells early on within the first 3 days of exposure, of symptoms. So, because you might have the exposure but not have symptoms for a couple of days. I've seen the ranges anywhere from 2 to 14. I don't buy the 14 days. You're not going to carry that virus around. It's the design of that virus is too aggressive to carry it around for 14 days. That number came in the early stages of all this, and they've never really updated it. But the way things are going so fast, you have to know it's got to be a lot quicker. So for example, when I got symptoms, I started feeling them on a Thursday. I said, uh-oh, I got dry cough. I never have a dry cough. I said, crap, I got COVID. I said, I think I better start my protocol. And so I took HCQ, azithromycin, which is like a Z-Pack, and zinc. And then I said that to day 1, and I said, all right, let me just see how day 2 goes. If I get any more symptoms, I'm going to know I've got it, right? And then so, and I took vitamin C. And then so day 2 hits, and I was like, oh yeah, I got it, because I got a ton of other symptoms. And I said, okay, I'll take butanozoid, which is rhinocort. It's a main ingredient rhinocort. 30 milligram is what they use in some studies for the nasal carriers to help neutralize the virus. So I did that. So that was zinc, C, of course D3 already, rhinocort, and then the HCQs and thermycin. So that's it. That's what I took. And I would say it was more like a moderate cold or mild flu, combination of the two. The symptoms were weird, and they were intermittent. Because I've had the flu once, just a few years ago. Otherwise, I haven't had the flu. I couldn't tell you when the last time it was. So I've been good, but it wasn't anything close to those, because of that was rough. But this, with taking that cocktail, it wasn't that much of a deal. It was just more annoying. Like a dry cough is annoying. It just come out of nowhere. Like you'd feel nauseous out of nowhere for like an hour. It'll pass. I'd have a fever like clockwork, which is weird, of 100 degrees, which is nothing. It's a weak fever. It'd be from 7 to 9 p.m. in the evenings, and it would be done. And I'd get cold. I'd feel cold, and that was it. And that was for like 4 nights. Otherwise, I was fine. Let's see. I had. The one thing was really strange. I felt like I got run over by a truck. Like my body aches, like I did a full workout. Like my lower back would hurt. Like if almost like you slept too long, kind of a feeling. I had that. Let's see, what else did I have? I had. I may have had a really, really light, mild headache. Like if you scale of 1 to 10, it'd be like a 2 or 3. I never had anything higher than that. Let's see, what else. I'm trying to think. I'm sure I'm forgetting something, but that was most off the top of my head right now. Foggy, fatigued. I was like really tired. Like I just didn't feel like doing anything. It was like I just want to sit around and do nothing. But I didn't want to watch a movie because my brain couldn't focus on anything too complex. So it was really strange. So I had no desire to do that. So it's a really weird place to be. It's like you have no motivation to do anything. Period. Nothing. Just to breathe. And a little bit of mild congestion, and that was it. So those are all the symptoms. They're all on the mild side, and they were all intermittent. They didn't happen all the time, and they happened at random times of the day, and it lasted for about I'd say a week for me, and then after that, the only thing that stuck around was the dry cough, and it would just be, I'd be all of a sudden just fine, and just and that's it. I'm like, where'd that come from? And so that lingered like 2 more weeks after that, and but that was my experience with COVID. Now, I'm healthy. I'm 47. I eat really well, and I exercise. I don't have any comorbidities. Am I in perfect health? No. I mean, I've got to take a couple of medications like most people do at this age, which is frustrating because I don't want to take anything, but you got to do what you got to do. So that's the only other issue I had, and my body did just fine with it. Now, here's where you have a cause and effect relationship, and the problem is, like anything else with this, definitively speaking, it's hard to come by. Period. You can't say definitive on masks. You can't say definitive on lockdowns. You can't say definitive on social distancing. You can't say definitive on, whatever. There's no definitive in any of this. So all you can take is each case, and then over a period of time, you got it all up, and you finally get some kind of pattern. But for me, was the fact Deborah's in the house of 50 stars. Thank you, Deborah. I'm dropping the COVID knowledge. The question is, would I have had just as mild of a case without taking that cocktail of stuff? I can't answer that question. I'm going to assume no, only because all of this stuff was used in studies to produce a mild case versus those that didn't. And so that's where I'm going to say, yes, it did help. Because can I prove it? No, I wasn't in a study. And even if I was in the study, they would have to give me placebo and let me suffer more just to show the guy next to me who got the cocktail didn't have to suffer. So I never felt like calling the ambulance. I never felt like going to the hospital. I never had any fear, irrational fear that this was it. I remember in my head, I've always got the 99.9% survival rate, so I wasn't worried at all. So I had no stress level, I had no cortisol dump, to make matters worse. The only cortisol dump I have is every day from just the whole environment that we're in, which is bad enough. So you have to have exercise to counteract that, believe it or not. Which, if you're not big on exercise and you want to reduce your cortisol levels, believe it or not, a 30-minute walk around the neighborhood every evening is all you need. And that'll bring it right back down to natural cortisol levels, which is tied directly to stress. In other words, it'll lower your stress. And a lot of times when cortisol levels get out of whack, hormonally wise, it causes a cascade effect in your body for other hormones. So just a little tip from me to you. So here's the other issue is, so Sherry's going nuts on this whole COVID thing because she's got all the anecdotal stories of, well, so-and-so didn't do good and so-and-so didn't do good. And so that's a falsehood to say when somebody like me does do good, it doesn't matter. You're not important. You're not important to me. Your story means nothing to me. What means something to me is the person who didn't do so well. Now, so the problem with that thought process is, of course, A, it's not a good one, but B, you don't know the full history of the other person. You don't know their full health. They may not even know their full health, right? And so there's always going to be outliers to the statistical bell curve. So if everybody does mostly well, and you have a few over here that doesn't do well, a few over here doesn't do well, sometimes it's just nature, right? It's a crappy hand you were dealt. Other times there's something else that you don't know about the person, that they don't even know, genetically wise, medication wise. I know here in Oklahoma City, I didn't see anything on the story. The newscast, I could just read it. They on the TV, they went nuts because a 13-year-old got COVID. I think he was a football player, and so they were harping on the fact he was 13. It was a kid. What they did not, that I could tell in that story, is say that he was obese. And when you looked at him, he was obese. So again, obesity is a problem no matter what age you are. Obesity does not discriminate for age and COVID. It doesn't matter. So you got to take care of your health. And that's something people just do not do these days. And it's sad because when you don't, something like this comes along and it causes problems. So for your point, Sherry, was that those that have these type of issues are going to suffer more. And it's unfortunate, but that's the way it goes. It's not then personal. It's just that's what happens. If you're not in good health going in, you're not going to be in good health going out, right? The other issue is doctors don't treat this like they could be treating it. You have these specific doctors who came out early in this event and said, hey, this is how I treated my patients, and they did great. Then the media and the Twitter mob and everyone else went and attacked them. You know what they did? They shoved all those doctors back into their corners. And that was complete disservice. It was total BS. And so it put a stigma on how to treat a virus. There should be no option off the table in a virus. There should be no consensus. There is no consensus, but yet the TV tells you there is. And the consensus is all those things don't work. You have to go to the hospital and they have to put a tube down your throat. That's the only solution. And so you have doctors train that way or act that way because that's where the consensus went. That's BS. That's not how we're supposed to do medicine. So if you go in there and that's what's the early days, they put you on a ventilator system. They basically suffocated you to death in the very early days. Like I think New York was a big problem for that because they didn't have any other ideas on how to treat it, right? So but we've obviously come far advanced from now, so now the doctors don't do that. But think about that for a minute. That was their go-to. That was their consensus. That's what they thought that they needed to do, and they killed people as a result of that because of that action. So that alone should be a wake-up call to say, hey, Nothing's off the table. Let's try a different method of protocols here and see what works best. And maybe one doesn't work for everyone, so we have some options we can try. But now, if you're normally fit and healthy and you're younger, you know what the doctors do? They go, okay, what are your symptoms? Nothing too mild, nothing too severe. Okay, well, if you get a headache, just take some Tylenol. Fever gets too high, just take some Tylenol, and then don't worry about it. You'll get through it. That's your protocol on most doctors when you get COVID. Okay. That's not a protocol in my opinion, but I'm not a doctor. But if I was a doctor, I would be doing what a lot of these other doctors did with their patients that was successful. I would see their stories and their write-ups and mimic those and try those out and see how it goes. Because the stuff I took is not dangerous for you. So if anything, it's going to help. And if anything, the worst case, it doesn't. And you still got a mild case and you go. And that's the other thing is if it turns out you do those protocols and your symptoms don't improve and you go from a mild case to a severe case, you can still go to that last ditch resort of going to the hospital where they stick a tube down your throat and whatever. It's not like that option's not off the table. It's just I wouldn't pick that option as my one and only. I would do these others first. They're non-evasive, they're easy, they're cheap, they're effective. And then if it turns out none of it worked, fine. I'll go and then I get the worst case scenario. But that's how I look at it, because I look at it as just pure rational. I look at it as pure, what can I do for myself? I want the most control over my body in my hands. I do not want to walk in there and say, here's the keys to my car, give it to the 14-year-old and tell him to go nuts. I'm not going to walk into a hospital and give them carte blanche to do that to my health. No way. So I'm going to make sure I can do whatever I can on my own to protect this temple. and then if it turns out that everything I've done isn't enough, fine. All right, I'll go in there and go, okay, have your way with me. I hope you did better than I did, and then let the chips fall where they may. So that's how I look at that. And I think there's a couple issues with all the positives that you're seeing out there, all the cases. It's cases overall total, right? That's the fear number. That's the cases. Fear, case. What they should be doing is cases recovered, right? If you have all these cases and all these cases recovered, you're like, oh, well, for 6,000 cases but 5,000 recovered, then why are we saying 6,000 cases? Well, because that means there's a lot of people that got the virus. I'm like, yeah, that's the way it goes. It's a virus. That's what viruses do. So what's important is the fact that you had 5,000 recovered. That's huge, And then what about these other 1,000? Well, they're still in the middle of their recovery, or some of those went to the hospital, right? Or some of those did pass on. So then you look at all those little numbers. Those are the numbers then you take and you try to create metrics and you follow those and you report on those and you dig into those. Okay, so these people did die. All right, now did they die with COVID or from COVID? All right, well, you won't know until you look at, first you have to get the medical history in the panel, and that has to be released with private confidentiality. I don't know how well all that works out. But did he go in with a gunshot wound and then he died and then they mark him down as COVID? Well, obviously that's not fair, and so that's a problem. And you have, fill in the blank, pick any number of scenarios. You have to weed all that stuff out. And then once you start to get down into the noise of all that stuff, you get to find out the real numbers and the real threat level. But no one wants to do all that. It's a lot of work, and it's still clouded, and no one wants to get into that. They just rather just scream cases in fear and get everybody all worked up. Well, it's like a run around like chickens with your head cut off, just running around. What good is it going to do you? It's not. Let's see, what else? So Sherry, you got to understand, you have not engaged your prefrontal cortex. You're still anxiety driven, and so I need you to focus on focus on 99.9. You have to focus on 99.9. What is that? That's your survival rate of the virus. regardless of whatever else you have going. Remember, whatever else you have going will make the virus more severe. In other words, your symptoms will be more severe versus mild, but it does not mean death, right? And then when you recover, you recover. Oh, here's another thing about recovery. So you're going to get antibody and T-cell immunity develop, right? Now, I tweeted this, a few weeks ago. One of the recent papers on that came out, and the issue was you've got the ability to not get sick again, or you have the ability then to fight off the virus better the second time around. In other words, the symptoms won't be as severe. You probably won't even need a cocktail because your body has the cocktail, right? And so you can have two different strains because there are multiple strains of this virus that traveled around the world and mutated. So in other words, you could have a Canadian strain, for example, and then you can go down to Mexico and get a Mexican strain. All right, well, the first strain that you had, you may have had a rough go of it, but you go and get the Mexican strain, you're like, well, I had it, but it wasn't as bad as the first time around. So when you do get the virus, you do build up some level of immunity. Now, of course, there's debates on if the immunity lasts for 6 months or if it lasts for a year. These people are all ridiculous because in overall history, for colds, flus, everything else, once you get that particular strain, your body is built to detect it in the future and already know what to do, right? So why would this be any different? Now, if it is different, and that's fine to make that claim, that means it was engineered to be different, which wipes off any innocence off the table. You see what I'm saying? Once you start going down that path, well, it's different than everything else. Okay, well, if it's different than everything else, that means it was engineered by man to be different than everything else. If it was engineered by man, then it's a weapon. And if it's a weapon, who released it? And why did they release it? You see where I'm going with that? So if you want to go down that road, it's fine. You can do that. But you can't just stop at the innocent level of, moral high ground, bolstering. That's not going to get you anywhere. You got to get down, go fall down the rabbit hole and see where it takes you. Stacy, you're welcome. Yeah, man, listen, it's just, trust me, I've been wanting to say this kind of stuff for a long time, but you have to understand when people have made up their mind to follow fear, right, and anxiety kicks in, once you threaten that belief system, and I could give you 10 positive things about it, once you're in that fear-induced, self-perpetuating anxiety belief system, you don't want to hear that. And if that threatens this bubble that you've provided for yourself of false safety, because I'm safe in my fear of the unknown, it's a really weird thought process, but you can't come out of that and then get all this good news and just go, oh, okay, I can breathe now. You have to have this breaking point internally to where you're allow yourself to actually hear those things. There's an expression, eyes wide shut, and you're not really looking at it. Or those who have ears, let them hear. Well, a lot of people are just doing this. That's a whole monkey see, monkey do thing on your emojis on your phone. So they have to be in a position where they're willing to listen. And that's hard. We're in a very heightened state when you're up here. You got to somehow bring your system down here to a level to where you can then listen and process and then use your cognitive thinking skills and start to kind of tiptoe away from fear and paranoia and anxiety into more calm, cool, collected. Okay, it's not going to be as bad. Okay, good. These numbers sound good to me. Okay, good. I'm not going to, this is not an automatic death sentence. Okay, good. Most everybody that gets this are mild or even asymptomatic. Okay, good. So you start recognizing, okay, this is all good news. And you start looking at numbers. And it turns out, I'm afraid to tell you this, but these numbers are starting to match the flu. In other words, the whole 0.01% for death. The difference is between the flu and COVID is that the flu is a widespread age group. It's equal opportunity across the board from infants to retired level. Whereas COVID is unfortunately not fair for the elderly community, but it's age 80 onward. Again, average life expectancy is 79. That's strange to have a designer virus that really hits and targets those that are in the elderly population. I'm not going to go down some conspiracy theory that it was designed that way. I'm not even going to go there because I have no idea. I'm just saying that's strange that this virus is designed to really attack that part of the population, whereas the flu is an equal opportunity attacker. Doesn't matter how old you are or young you are. So that's different, but the percentage is the same. In the early days, they thought it was a 10 times factor, 100 times factor. Well, the more cases come out, the more deaths come out. So all those numbers keep coming back down. They keep starting to level out and be similar. Jennifer, don't just stick to the weather. Oh my gosh. Every time somebody says that, stick to the weather, like Peter, it's such a tool comment. And I get it from men and women. And guess what? I call you both tools behind your back. I go, you're such a tool. And I laugh and I move on because I care less what you have to say. It's my page and I talk about whatever I want. It's the way it goes. And no one asks for your opinion. So it's just funny. I mean, I don't know. I think people think they have a lot more power than what they think they do when it comes to trying to controlling other people. And I'm like, you're not going to control me. Come on, man. I'm my own person. It's called freedom. Get over it. Accept it. Find a way to be content. And quit trolling my page. Or get booted. I got no problem hitting the ban button. The ban hammer. It's easy. It's done. It takes no effort. I don't have to think about it. You're like a dust in the wind. Jay's in the house at 50 stars. Thank you, brother. He likes that COVID preaching. Listen, this is I have to let you know this. For those of you folks that hung around, most of them got off, when the weather was over. And I understand that because this is a weather page, but you never know what tangent I'm going to go down on. And trust me, there hasn't been one that wasn't worth sticking around for. And this one, trust me, did not disappoint. I did not expect any of this, and we went really deep in all this. Now, keep in mind, as a scientist, remember, I'm a scientist, and everybody's like, well, you're a meteorologist, and you're not a doctor, and you're not I'm like, okay, first off, are you a moron? Where do you think doctors get their information from? The science part of the field. The science part is done by experimentation and et cetera, et cetera. The doctors on the front line are pill pushers and operational side of just using equipment to get you better. But their knowledge and everything else comes from up the chain from scientists and scientific experiments, et cetera, et cetera. So it's an asinine statement to make anyway. It shows you have no intelligence regarding what's coming out of your mouth. So you should just shut up and sit down. So as a scientist in me, all I care about is data, right? I care about raw numbers. I care about statistics. I care about curves and outliers. I care about things that weren't taken into account for the study. What does it say? What does it not say? Is it conclusive? Is it cause and effect? Those are all things that are scientifically based that I'm interested in. I could care less about someone's opinion. I could care less about emotion. I could care less about groupthink. I could care less about consensus. That does not interest me. I don't care about cancel culture. I don't care about silencing someone. That doesn't interest me. That's all nonsense. That's weak. That's a human nature of a weak person. I'm not interested in that. I just want the data. So, and I look at that for everything. I look at it for climate change, global warming, the meteorology field that I'm in itself, anything I study on my own or on the side, bodybuilding, diet, all that kind of stuff. That's how I educate myself. So I'm like a sponge. I'm just constantly learning. And what I do with all this knowledge, I have no idea. I mean, I apply it in my own life, and then sometimes I share some of it, but it's just what I like to do. So on the whole COVID world thing that we're into, I see both the left and I see the right. I see this argument, I see that argument, right? And I'm frustrated there even has to be an argument. I'm frustrated there even has to be a side. I wish this stuff would just be pure, let's say untainted. However, you can't go there because it's mankind. Mankind is inherently evil. Yes, there's good people, and there's a crap load of bad people. There's people who are interested in power. There's people interested in money. There's people interested in control. That's the problem. And so when all those contaminate the field that you're in, they contaminate the science, they contaminate the politics. Once all that's contaminated, it is so frustrating because you see it, right? But no one else sees it. And by no one else meaning that's your thought process. How am I the only one that sees this? You tell yourself that as you talk to yourself, because that's the healthy thing to do. But you realize, no, actually, half the people don't see it, and the other half do. And then now we're right back to where we started from, which is bashing heads and Civil War time in the streets. As everybody takes their position. And it's just so frustrating. I'm just like, and that's why I escaped. That's why I went to Cancun. I wanted to get out of this. I want to get on a beach with the ocean breeze and not even have to think about all this crap and humanity. I just wanted a break, right? And then we get a hurricane and we get COVID. It's like, you gotta be kidding me. Oh, see, you can't run from COVID. It'll get you. So anyway, there you go. All right, so let me look at a couple more comments, and I'm gonna get out of here. Amanda, you're welcome. So Misty, I'm preaching, that's for sure. Good deal, Jennifer. Oh my gosh. Okay, see, Sherry, honey, you've got to find a way to get your anxiety reduced. You've got to look. I'm not a proponent of smoking weed, but if that's what it takes to get you just to snap out of it, go for it. But the point being is, why are you worried about hospitals being pushed to being full? On Twitter, I posted a tweet earlier where a guy actually went into that in depth, because I don't have time to go in depth on some of these issues, but I follow enough people who do, because that's what their job is, and that's great, because I can't solve the world's problems, but I like to see other people's influence. Like, you guys come to me for weather, right? You may go to somebody else for this and somebody else for that, but you come to me for weather. Awesome, I love it, appreciate that, because I do the work, so you don't have to. Anyway, so on the deal for the hospitals being full, that happens all the time. And it happens randomly throughout decades of influx of viruses that break out, swine flu, bad cold seasons, bad flu seasons, going back last 20 years. That's just the way our medical system is built. It's like anything else. They bill that, listen, you have to make a profit to survive. Hospitals are no different. They will run at about 70 to 80% capacity all the time. Why? Empty beds means no money. No money means no lights, no staffing, no operation, right? So they need the patients in there. Now, just like anything else in business, you have an overhead, right? And you can account for a certain influx of traffic. Same thing with them. They account for that to have a full, at some point, they're going to have full beds, right? So they're going to have the full, let's say a really bad flu season, and they're going to get 100% full. They might even be 110% capacity. You're like, whoa, what happens at 110? Well, they have extra beds. They just put them different places. And you're going, okay, well, now they have to have staffing. Well, they bring in extra staffing. And you say, well, sometimes they don't have enough staffing. I get that. That can be a problem. And that, unfortunately, is our healthcare system overall. COVID out of the equation. That's just overall for the flu and everything else we've had to deal with. So it's not this is anything new, all right? So the staffers are working on the front line. That's their job. They signed up for that. This is what they do. When a meteorologist gets the job and he works in a severe weather market, the number one severe weather market in the country is Oklahoma City. And this knucklehead thinks that's what he wants in his 20s. So he works his butt up the ladder to get here, and he gets here. And he says, oh, hell, what the hell did I wish for? I'm working like a dog 365. why did I decide to sign up for this? It's the risk of the job that you take for what you love to do. It's your passion. So when people complain about their passion and they complain they're having to work over, for some big event, they need to reevaluate their choice in life. When I have a tornado outbreak, let's say there's 5 or 6 of them, all in a week or 2 time. It's a huge event. Do I sit back and go, I gotta work this tornado outbreak. I really don't want to do it. It's so much work. It's this big event that I get to be a part of to really help save lives, and I'm irritated by it. I don't want to save lives. Do you realize how stupid that sounds? So for the doctors in the front line that come out or nurses that come out and say stuff like that, they need to pick another line of work because they're not cut out for that. That's the part of the job. So that irritates me. And that should go for anyone in any passion or job that they're in. If you really feel that strongly, then get out. Don't do it. But most people are in that field because they want to help. They want to help others. And they want to be a big part of that event. In other words, that nurse or that doctor wants to go in there and go, I want to make a difference today. I want to save as many lives, COVID lives, as I possibly can. Then you have the bonehead that will go on CNN and go, I've had to work with all these COVID patients. We're strapped. We don't have enough beds. People are sitting in the ER. I'm angry. And I'm just, I should be focused on saving lives and being thankful, but I'm not. I'm mad. I'm on TV to talk about it because I can. It's your choice. I would suggest you pick the first choice, which is bust your ass, and know at the end of the day, you did something good for yourself internally, and you did something good for others. And you knew it was tough going in, and it's tough going out, and there's a risk involved. And you knew all that, and you gave it your all. You didn't go and bitch on social media. You didn't try to get somebody fired. You didn't try to, make fun of other doctors or other people that take other medications or whatever. You didn't spend your time doing that. You spent your time doing what you were designed to do. So, when I hear those stories about the hospitals being pushed over and people bitching and moaning, they need to take that bigger picture in mind. Now, that's on the human side of things. On the procedural side of things, I was looking for another word, I could come up with it, but technical side of things, whatever, political side, monetary side, that's a whole different animal. And if you want to go down that path and say, hey, COVID was a good learning experience on how to restructure hospitals for influx of certain events that may happen, because we'll probably get another pandemic at some point in time. The question is, do you learn from this one? Well, they haven't learned from the past ones. They don't learn from the swine flu or these other big hospital overtakes. Nothing's changed. So don't take it out on the regular human people. You need to get together and build a new system that's better equipped for something like that, so the rest of us don't have to lock down and end up in depression, suicide, beating each other up, burning cities down, any other outlet of anger you can think of, so that's not the only solution, because that's the stupid solution. Smart solution is just redesign the system that can handle a bigger influx in patients somehow, some way. I'm sure you can get a think tank of people that are pretty smart to figure it out. But the rest of this lockdown bull crap isn't going to work. See, I start getting fired up. See how everything's tied together? Excuse me. So there's that dry cough coming back. And then the other thing is, that I meant to talk about on the cases and I didn't. And I this is what got me a Twitter tweet storm of morons. So I called out one of the guys at Channel 5 for all the fear panic porn that they're doing with all the cases. You have to understand the cases are detected with a PCR test. And this PCR test, even by the guy who designed it, was not made and designed for doing this. It's not what the test was for, but that was the only way they could try to somehow capture this thing, right? Well, the only they found out is if they ran the test with 20 iterations or less, in other words, they take the sample, they put it through the machine, they run it through, did they get any DNA, RNA points of the virus? The answer is yes or no. No. Run it again. Run it again. We're going to keep running it again. We got to get finer, more detailed. In other words, more data points to see if we can't really get in there and see if we can't see that 0.09 micron virus, right? Or some remnants of it, or some human reaction to it. So you run it 20 times, nothing happens. Well, let's run another 10. Well, still don't have it. Well, let's go 35 to 40 iterations. Once you are in that aspect, your error range of your margin of error is thrown out the window. You're in total worthless garbage in, garbage out data category. You're so far down the noise, you're detecting noise. So you're not even detecting the virus. So a lot of those cases are false positive as a result. And so that's frustrating when I hear cases. Well, because I don't want to say PCR false positives. So what? So really the only way to kind of get a better idea of the metric as to how bad a certain thing is not the cases, number of cases, but it's the actual deaths, and which is, horrible to say, but it's a better metric of notating how bad a situation really is. In other words, if the deaths keep going up, well, obviously now we got a problem, because that's not a measure. You're either alive or you're dead, so that's real easy. Now you can get into the issues of how did he die or she die, what did she have, did she have 4 comorbidities already, matter of fact, was she already on her deathbed before she passed, and she just happened to have COVID after we tested her. We didn't know she had COVID, she died, and then we tested her, and the autopsy says she died of a heart attack. Well, now we're going to give it COVID instead. So you have all these other things that may happen down the road to confuse that, but you would hope to think that the majority are at least categorized correctly on the death count. So that gives you at least a metric to follow, that one that can't be too butchered, to give you an idea as to how bad a situation would be. And then you can break that down into age groups, right? And then you can break that down into what else did they have when they died of COVID. And then once you're able to do all of that, you can start categorizing everything. And once you categorize everything, you start to see actual numbers and a trend and a pattern develop. And once you see that, you can go, oh, okay. And this is just, I'm just throwing this out there as an example. Let's just say all the deaths that occurred, let's just say it was, and we'll just pick random numbers, 10 people died under the age of 70 that were completely healthy. All right. And then you'll say 10,000 died over the age of 70 that were already close to death. Now let's say that's all the data you had to work on, right? Now you have to look back and think of that and go, should I be worried or not? And then you put in whatever age you are. So let's say you're 25 years old. Well, 10 people died under the age of 70, but 1,000 people died, or 10,000 whatever, over 80. And you have to go, am I worried or not worried? And so you look at those numbers, and that is supposed to get your cognitive thinking skills going, and then you make your decision based off of that logic train. So that's where we really need to be. Now that was an oversimplification, but that's the kind of process that needs to happen to bring everybody back down, so that we quit overreacting where they don't need to overreact. And then protect the vulnerable. And that's the way it always is. You got to protect the vulnerable. And the vulnerable is really your grandma and grandpa. And that's it. But here's the problem with that. You have to ask them what they want. You don't get to decide for them. Because let me tell you something. Grandma and grandpa, life isn't so great when you're by yourself and you're isolated and you don't get to interact with human contact. Life sucks. All right? Ask anybody thrown into a solitary confinement. Do you think they walk out of there going, boy, that was enjoyable, I want to do that again? No, they do not. That's the one thing we all need to prevent us from going crazy. So you think your grandma and grandpa are any different than that? You're crazy. Because no, they want interaction. Now, some of them are going to be so fearful of death that they will choose not to have that interaction. Unfortunately, what they don't realize by making that choice, they're killing themselves anyway, mentally, even physically as a result, because our brains are not wired for that. We're not built to be alone in that aspect. So when you say protect the vulnerable, that's a very, even though it sounds simple on paper, that is a very complicated subject, because are you really protecting them? I saw that one video that elderly woman, I think it was in Germany, or I think it was in the UK, I don't think it was in the States, and her son was talking to her through the computer, and of course her age, she's like barely even knows what the computer is. You could tell she didn't really know where to look and all that. And she was just, I can't live like this, I can't live. And it was breaking my heart. I was like, oh my gosh, that woman needs somebody there. She was an example of, I don't want this. Don't force me to live alone. Don't force me to be isolated. I want my grandson here. I want my whatever here. If you were to ask her, she'd probably say, you know what? 5 minutes with them is worth it. Because I can die in peace, somebody by my side or whatever. I don't know. You would have to ask her. But that's the point, is when you speak for others, that is so self-centered. I'm like, who the hell do you think you are to speak on behalf of someone else? You let them decide. But we're not going to get that discussion. We're not going to have it. So that's frustrating for me, because when I look at the bigger picture, we talked this probably an hour ago. Oh my gosh, it's late. That's the other issue, is when you have the suicides, and you have the abuse, and you have the isolation, you have people just going mentally insane. That's far worse than getting a mild case of COVID. And so you have to decide at one point, you just want to take your chances. Then you've got cancer. So Deborah, you're bringing that up. So many cancers that were not diagnosed properly or didn't get the treatment or whatever, because again, these people feared of getting COVID. They went to the hospital, or they feared because they were told to be home and isolated. It's the whole thing is just sad. There's no simple answer. There's no simple solution. I just know that overall we're doing far more harm than good. That's only than this virus would ever do. Both in the economy and in our mental health and in our entire national division. It's disgusting. If I was a bad dude and I wanted to design the worst weapon I could to disrupt everything globally and every human being, that's how I would do it. Is what's happened now. That's what I would do. It's the perfect weapon. It's so sad. Let's see, Misty, I didn't see it earlier, but thank you for sending your 50 stars. David, you sent 50. That's awesome, brother. Appreciate it. Thank you, you too. So Joyce wants to know my cocktail again. So I took, for COVID, I had vitamin D3. I take that all the time anyway, 20 years. I had some clown on Twitter go, long-term use of vitamin D3 and zinc is deadly. I'm just like, you are such an idiot. Some people I don't even, I don't even respond to them because it's not worth my time. That would be a lot. It's the trolls, basically. But anyway, so I took vitamin D3 and zinc, 30 milligrams a day. You can take vitamin C also. I think it's like 1,000 milligrams. These aren't high doses, just normal doses. And then as far as when you get the virus and stuff, so you can keep taking those. You can take those now if you want, and it's preferred. And then when you actually get the symptoms start, you can take, again, within the first 3 days, because what happens is you get the first 48 hours, that virus replicates like nobody's business. All right, it's ridiculous. So that's why they say in the first 3 days, you've got to stop that replication. You stop the replication with the zinc. That's why you want to have the zinc already in your system. Now, to facilitate a faster transport to get the zinc into the cell to stop the virus replication, that's where the theory of HCQ or quinine, and quinine is something you can get over the counter. It's in like diet tonic water, but I don't think it'd be enough of a quantity. But you can go to like Amazon and buy you a quinine deal. So some were saying that could help. I didn't look into a whole lot into that part of it because I had the HCQ, so I didn't really need to investigate that too deeply. It's not going to hurt anything, and it's not going to harm you, so it's worth trying. Because especially if you can't get HCQ from a doctor, which again might be hard to do. And I will tell you this, that no one knows about, never hit the media, because I know people. There was a hospital chain, all their doctors, when all this broke out, guess what they were taking? HCQ. The hospital mandated it. They didn't tell a single soul. Didn't come out with it publicly. So do with that as you wish. So anyway, I took that, azithromycin, so a Z-Pack, and of course I already had the vitamin C. And then the other thing was a nasal inhaler. I think it's Rhinocort is the brand name. I think I always pronounce this wrong. Budesonide, I think is what the drug in that is. 30 milligram or 30 microgram dosage of it was used for that. Sherry, I can't help you. Honestly, you would need to talk to someone at this level. I'm giving you as much logic as I can get, but it's not getting through, so I'm not gonna be able to reach you. And you're not even listening to what I'm saying, so it's just not gonna work. But anyway, so back to what I was saying on the cocktail. This was something interesting that one of my other doctors told me, and he's been doing this for 5 months, interacting directly with COVID patients, and he has not gotten COVID. I'm like, hey, what is it? So, and this is the theory. Again, this is all, most of this stuff is hypothesis and theories, right? On the method of why it works. All right, because we don't have the luxury of spending years in all these studies to get the exact answer. It's quick and dirty. Hey, I tried this and it worked. Okay, I tried that and it worked. Okay, let's do it. We're in that realm right now of 2020. But it was, you take Afrin nose spray. 10 minutes later, you take Flonase. Both are over the counter. The reason why you take the Flonase is to offset the Afrin, because you're not supposed to take Afrin more than, I think it's like 5 days or 7 days, because it does something to the nasal passages for inflammation. All right. In other words, it's too much over long term. But if you take the Flonase, it counteracts that. The two chemicals offset each other. So he's been doing that combination for 5 months. Which is actually a good combination to do anyway for, like, if you suffer from seasonal allergies, sinus infections. That's also a combination. But what helps with COVID is because of the preservatives. This is a thought process. The preservatives that keep that stuff sterile actually neutralizes and kills the virus as it enters through your membranes and through your nasal passages. So that's the thought process behind it. Whether or not that's the exact mechanism, I don't know. But that's something else you can do and try now. You can do that daily to try to prevent yourself from getting COVID if you're really worried about it. And then, of course, to help lessen the symptoms. So there you go. So some of the information I gave you is from personal doctor friends of mine, and some of it is just from all the research I've read online. Remember, I don't care what the media says. I don't care what the local or national media says. There is no consensus on any of this. So, we're all in one big trial by fire. And so you do what you can to survive. Do what you can to make sure you're taking care of yourself. So now I'm just looking at your last couple of comments. So Sherry says, so you're saying sick people should sacrifice themselves for healthy people. I don't even know, that don't even make sense to me. Of course, I never actually said any of those words, but that's what you heard. So if I was in a relationship with you and we were talking, and that's what you would say back to me, and I would say, okay, I'd say, Sherry, I just told you everything to say. I said, so what did you hear? And then you tell me this. I would have to say, okay, let's take a time out. Let's go and just clear our minds, do something else, and we're going to come back and approach this on another day, And at that point in time, I would then have to reword how I would want my message to get through, because the first way didn't work. And if I yell it louder, it's not going to make it better. If I repeat the same thing, it's not going to make it better. So I have to come up with, I have to reverse it. I have to put you in my position. So I'd have to kind of reverse roles and think of some scenarios and do some role playing to get you then to get engaged in the conversation, to remove all emotional components and just to walk through some instances. So that's what I would do with you if you were in a relationship, both in real life and in a discussion about COVID. And then it would probably take hours to work all that out. But then we would. And then we'd go to dinner. But anyway, so that's pretty much how I would handle that. So anyway. All right. Yeah, it's hard for me to keep track of everybody's comments because I'm too busy talking. So I just glance at a few of you. I will tell you this, though. Aaron, you must go to bed, dude. You got things to do. Oh, I gotta go to the dentist in the morning. 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock means I get up at 7. 7, it's 11:30. I don't even get 8 hours of sleep. Dadgummit. Okay, what was I going to say? Then I'm really going to cut you loose. Sherry, you were a good weatherman. Oh, so dramatic. Did you win the drama award tonight? I'm going to give you the drama award tonight. Okay, so... Oh, crap, what was I going to say? It was good, too. I know it was. It was a fleeting thought, and then I got sidetracked on my fleeting thought. What do you call that? A fleeting thought that sidetracks a fleeting thought. I call it tired. I call it 11:30 at night. Shoot. Hold on. It'll come to me. Give me just 2 seconds. I swear it'll be there. Count slow. Like Mississippi seconds. Let's talk about COVID, of course. Talk about relationships. And then I was going to do something else. Screw it. Who cares? Whatever. I've said enough. It'll come to me when I hang up. When I close this broadcast, I'm like, oh, crap, that's what it was. But, it's fine. You've heard enough from me tonight. I say it for the next time. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, lots of squirrels, train wrecks, old age. Man, you got it. I'm in a mess. Yeah, Bev, I see your comment. That's what I talked about that earlier. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's Jiraiya, I see your 95 stars. You bet. I hope it helps you out if you get the COVID. Any Maters tomorrow? Media's hyping it up, Aaron Tuttle. Tamara. Of course they are. It's what they do. Have you never known the media not to hype up something? Oh, man, that's the other thing that irritates me. Okay, that'll be the one thing. Now I'm going to let you go. This wasn't what I said earlier, but that triggered a memory. So when the Twitter mob comes out of a bunch of morons frothing at the mouth, these idiots don't actually follow me, right? But they act like they know me, and they act like they follow me, and they'll regurgitate what some moron wrote in a blog or told them, that I hype up all weather events. I'm the worst hyper in this market over weather. And that actually burns me more than anything, because that's so far from the truth. It's the complete opposite. That's my fact. I built this whole business on the fact of being the only one that doesn't hype everything and keeps it all calm. And so when I read those comments, I'm like, you guys are such idiots. And I have to sit back and go, Aaron, it doesn't matter. They're morons. And morons are going to moron. It doesn't affect you at all. It doesn't change. You're going to do what you always do. They're not going to watch you anyway, so what do you care what they have to say? So I had those little talks to myself anytime people do get under my skin there briefly. But that's the one thing that's the most frustrating is if you, let's say you do something for the benefit of mankind, right? Let's say you cure cancer, okay? Let's say that's what your legacy is. And then you'll have a bunch of people come out and say, you actually created cancer. And you're just like, I cured it. And these morons think I created it because they're stupid. You just have to just write off and go, you know what? There are stupid people out there, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can't save everyone. So you just laugh it off and you just go on. But that is the most frustrating thing, though, is to have people say you do the opposite of what you actually do. If anything, I keep too calm. In other words, I don't put enough stress on it. In other words, I make everything too palatable rather than giving a little extra energy jolt. But hey, I'd rather be on that side than the other, so it's fine. That all works out. You can't fix stupid. Bev, I need to hear you tonight. Good job. Well, thanks, Bev. No problem. Glad to help out. And for those of you folks that stayed around, I hope you enjoyed the entertainment and the knowledge drops. It was good to get it off my chest. Been holding that for months. You have no idea. Over here like you, watching the world burn. Just like, I got so much to say. All right, I'm out. You guys have a great night. Thanks again for watching. We'll talk again soon, and we'll see how tomorrow goes with the tornado potential and the storms. I'll be around. See ya.